Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Kalyan Prasad, Associate Professor of Physics, Department of Basic Science and Humanities. So today we will try to explore revised Bloom's taxonomy, which is a bridge between the OBE and real-time implementation of OBE. So OBE, I think already in the last two sessions explained several components of the OBE, outcome-based education. And prior to that also, you might have heard about OBE. The problem with OBE is everyone, including myself, thought that we know OBE. The fact is, we know the terminology, not OBE. So yesterday itself, Dr. Suryanarayan explained some keywords. You might go through it. That's CU, PU, PU, PSU. So knowing these terminology is essential for the understanding of OBE. That doesn't mean that only knowing these terminology gives you an in-depth understanding of OBE. You must implement OBE. Then only you can know the depth of OBE. Just knowing the terminology doesn't give you any essence of the OBE. Okay? I think you got my point. So these are the words of Swami Vivekananda. Bottom one, just observe us. The quality of education can never be better than the quality of teachers. So in yesterday's session, Dr. Suryanarayan went through these 21st century skills consisting of 16 components. So I'm not going into that anymore. But in this, if you observe the last one, understanding the significance of HOTs, higher order thinking, these are part of Bloom's taxonomy. So, in order to understand the significance of higher order thinking, because it is an essential part of 21st century skills. So, we must start with the basic level of the cognitive system. So, we will spend some time on this. So, revise Bloom's taxonomy. What is this Bloom's taxonomy? Why we need this? So, everything will be covered in this slide. Please go through it properly. So, it is in fact a common language about learning goals facilitate communication across person, subject matters, and grading levels. So, we will come to this point by the end of the session. And it is the basis for determining a particular course or curriculum. Because curriculum development is a very, very difficult task in fact. Usually, the initial state of the autonomous colleges, because unless you are an autonomous, you do not have the opportunity to prepare a course or curriculum. If you are under JNTU or something, other university, obviously they will provide you a syllabus. So once you become autonomous, you will have autonomy partially. You will have autonomy, not completely. If you want complete autonomy, we must have become university. In either of the cases, autonomous or university cases, you must prepare curriculum given under the lights of AppSheet and JNTU. So we can modify the given curriculum and syllabus to maximum of 20 to 30% only, at least on paper. So that means you must prepare your curriculum and your course. I think you might have the knowledge of course program. The terminology of the course means subject. So preparing course requires a lot of knowledge, not simply dumping the content. It must fill the gap between student and OB. The student must pass through these CO and POs. We will go through all those things later. Then you can understand how difficult preparing a course is and how difficult writing a CO is. Okay. So for that you require a soundful knowledge of Bloom's taxonomy and each level of the Bloom's taxonomy also. And the third one, see that is the I highlighted in different colors also for that. So it gives it must give revised Bloom's taxonomy must give a congruence, that means a harmonical level between educational objectives. You must define educational objectives. What is the objective of that particular course? Why the student has to study that particular course in a given semester? Whether it is limited to a single semester, sometimes it is not. Because you cannot incorporate the entire required part of the syllabus in a single course sometimes. In such cases, you will have title 1, title 2 in different semesters sometimes. For example, in mechanical engineering, thermal engineering 1, thermal engineering 2. It's a vast area of study. Cannot be incorporated in a single course. Okay. So the objective must be defined. Whether it is suitable for the student of the second semester or third semester. Because the level of the student plays a very vital role in defining the course. And then the possible activities based on that particular educational objective. What kind of activities are possible for that particular course in classroom or outside the classroom? Some courses will be done outside the classroom also. Say for example, surveying outside the classroom. Okay. So what possible activities are there? And the most important part is the third one, assessment. Can you assess the student in sync with the objectives you defined? You must be able to assess the student. Unless you assess the student, the overall process is a waste of time. There is a possibility for the assessment also. So while you are defining course and course outcomes also, you must think of the possible assessments. Is it possible to assess this particular content? Because we have limited number of assessments. Although there are several assessment types possible out there, in our system, particularly in India, particularly in autonomous colleges like us, we have very limited assessments. For example, classroom assessment and assignments mid examinations, semester examinations. Maximum these are the possible. In fact, for final year students, they might have project. Only these are the possible assessments. So, while you are defining the course, these must also play a vital role. Can we assess, sir? Good morning. My part
So request everybody to maintain time. Sometimes unknowingly your HODs may engage with some work. It is your responsibility to inform that you have to attend for FDP. Overflow and the planning to check and allow you, right? And semester is commencing very soon from 22nd of July, June. I request everybody to adhere to the dress code of the institution. Right? Immediate effect from the water, right? All women employees as well as gents. Right? Thank you. Let us arrange a report, sir. Attendance this coming. After also pay it.
Okay.
Don't allow somebody to come.
Okay. So the last one is what we already discussed. The educational possibilities against the limited breadth and depth of any particular educational course. That's what we stated earlier. Is it possible to incorporate the entire course in a single semester, or is it possible or not? Even sometimes, if it is possible, the assessment may not be possible. So these all must be taken into consideration while you are incorporating the course into the curriculum. Okay. I think these learning domains also have been discussed in the last session. I think cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domains. So I'm skipping those for time. So coming to the actual today's topic, is Dr. Benjamin Blue. Sir, light on. Thank you. Okay, he's also a teacher. So, for majority of his period, he worked as a lecturer in Polytechnic Girls. So, we developed this taxonomy. What is this taxonomy? Of course, named after him, Bloom's taxonomy. Later on, his disciple, one of his disciples, revised some of the names, particularly in HOT levels. That is why it is called revised Bloom's taxonomy, but I am not going into the actual Bloom's taxonomy, because if we go into that, you may get confused with RBT terminology. This is the NBA approved one, so that we will go with this only. Okay, that is why it is called revised. So please observe this. A foundational educational framework. It's a framework developed by Bloom, so which organizes the learning into different stages. So this taxonomy covers various possible levels of cognitive system, starting from very low level to through very high level. So it is nothing but, if you observe the last statement given by Bloom, how we think about thinking. Read it again. It requires multiple times of reading and understanding sentence. That actually completely gives you the structure of Bloom's taxonomy. It is the way of thinking, how a human brain can think. So the cognitive levels are classified into 6 levels. So starting from remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Some authors also states it as removing the ing text. Just remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. So these are the levels. The first 3 levels remember, understand, apply are usually referred to as lower order thinking. Of course, apply has a hybrid state. Sometimes some authors also treat it as a higher order thinking, depending on the course and the area of the application also. And coming to the analyze, evaluate, and create, these are completely higher order thinking. So that is what initially we specified. In 21st century skills, we must understand the significance of higher order thinking, evaluate, and creating are the top 2 layers which are very much essential in today's environment. So the student must try hard to master these levels. Of course, that must be incorporated in the curriculum. The curriculum must support it. For example, if you observe your syllabus papers, you might have everyone have syllabus papers with you. So it will be restricted to a particular level. If you observe the second or third page of the syllabus, you can see that L1, L2, L3, L4. That particular course is restricted to L4. What does that mean? The instructor cannot assess L5 and L6 levels. That means the board of studies or any other official organization which approved the syllabus is limited that particular course to L4 level only. So your evaluation must be up to L4 only. That doesn't mean that the entire course is L4. If you are saying L4 means it consists L1, L2, L3 also. So the percentages will also be specified in the syllabus itself. You can observe the syllabus. Observe in the third or second page of the syllabus, it will be specified in percentages. L1 level will be assessed these sort of percentage. Likewise, in fact, mid paper, which is being prepared by the course instructor itself, usually must follow the table. L1 20%, L2 20%. The questions must comprise, even your question paper also have a specific line. How much L1 is there in the total question paper? So we are specifying in percentages there. So if the course permits, then you can assess the student up to that level. If the course doesn't permit, obviously you cannot assess the student at that level. Okay. So this is the very first level of Bloom's taxonomy. remember. So the key actions associated with remembering are recognizing, recalling, retrieving. That means already known information will be recalled, retrieved. Retrieving, that means the information is already stored in your brain. You are just retrieving the information out. It's a very basic level, raw memory system. Very basic. So in the beginning of the learning stages, we use it to by heart tables. 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4. So you don't know how 2 twos are 4. What happens and how you are getting 2 twos are 4. You don't know anything. You just remembering it, and whenever you require, you are retrieving that information. Recalling back. 2 fours are 8. Why 2 fours are 9? How it is coming? It will be in the next cognitive level, not in remember. Okay. So this is one of the observe the diagram carefully. How many parts are there in the cranial? This is in fact a kind of test, a psychological test in many of the examinations, entrance examinations. Say for example RRB, Railway Recruiting Board. This is one of the important part of the evaluation. They will give you this kind of diagram to observe for 2 to 3 minutes, and they will remove it, and they will ask to write whatever parts you have observed. So obviously the test will be closed with the results focusing on whoever presents more number of parts. He or she will be qualified. Here you do not require to know what is that bicycle, who made it, what components are there, what materials are used, whether you know it bicycling or not. Do not require all this information. Are you getting me? Just a raw number. Okay? So if you observe the bottom lines below learning activity, so these are very much essential to prepare even your mid papers. Even framing of this question is also not properly given. I will go through it also. What is the difference we are making? What are the mistakes we are making? Okay? Recognizing, listening, describing, identifying, retrieving, naming, listing, finding. These are some important keywords. See, observe the first question, which is already strike. It's strike true because the question is incompletely framed. And it is modified accordingly in the second step. You observe those 2 questions. Incomplete way of questioning. Draw the diagram of the thermal power station. Not only thermal power station, any diagram. Any diagram corresponding to your particular curriculum. You cannot simply question like that. You should be more specific while you are assessing the student. Okay? And the third one is also most important way of asking in the L1 level. Usually in part A of the question paper, in our curriculum, part A, deals with 2 mass process. So you cannot ask draw the schematic diagram of a thermal power station with appropriate markings in 2 mass. Isn't it? It is not suitable for 2 marks. So for 2 marks, you must use an appropriate amount of information only to be presented. Otherwise, the student may spend much time on part A, which leads to availability of lesser time for part B, which carries more number of marks. Okay. And the next level of the RBT is understand. This is slightly a higher level than remember. So the activities involved are interpreting, explaining, classifying, inferring, comparing. These are so here a medium sir. Please observe the video. Some of you might gone through this experiment. Experiment and application it requires millions of dollars. Experiment leader. I will tell you why. Okay. So in the first part of the experiment, the feather and the solid sphere were dropped from the same height, but solid sphere reached the ground earlier and feather reached the latter. So if you show this part of the experiment to a student, what actually the student asks you, is the gravity different for feather and the solid sphere? No. So according to Newton, gravity is same for every mass on the earth, at least on the earth. Forget about other planets. మరి అలాంటప్పుడు feather and solid sphere రెండు different times లో ఎందుకు రీచ్ అవుతుంది? This is where understand comes into play. So to answer this question, you do not, you may not sufficiently explain using the first level of the taxonomy. You require a better level of cognitive domain. So here, the second part of the experiment, if you observe it, so play it once. This is the first time. This is second part. Now the feather and solid sphere are simultaneously. Sir, presentation. So here the reason that why in the second part of the experiment both are reaching simultaneously. The answer is in the first part there is atmosphere. That is air resistance is there. That is the reason why the heavier body reached the ground earlier. But in the second part of the experiment, the atmosphere was completely removed. There is no air resistance at all. Complete vacuum. So both the bodies are reaching the ground under pure gravitational pull. So the gravity is same for all the masses. So this is what understanding requires. A little bit of higher level of thinking. Okay. Please observe the framing of the questions. So that is one of the most important tasks given by principal sir for this FDP. Whether you are able to prepare a question properly. Very question very different. Please observe the questions. Okay. And the next one is applying. Applying level is, as already specified, falls at the upper level of LOT and lower level of HOT, almost in between. So whatever knowledge we acquired, either by remembering or by understanding, that is the previous two levels, remember and understand. So these two must be applied. So remember one thing, if your course is permitting you up to L3 level or L4 level, that means you are allowed to assess the student in L3 level also. Isn't it? If your course is designed up to L4 level, you can assess student up to L3. So while you are assessing the student, already specified in the earlier statements itself, the assessment must be possible and measurable. The assessment should be possible means the given question should be able to answer by the student within this span of time. If the question cannot be answered in given 3 hours of time, your assessment is not properly designed. Are you getting me? And then, moreover, the assessed value must be quantizable. So you must choose assessment patterns in such a way that must be completed within the given span of time, and they must also be quantizable so that you can present them. These marks in way of marks. Quantizable means in way of marks. As already specified earlier, you cannot ask a student to draw a thermal power station with all the components for 2 months. Quantization is not properly happening there. Even though the student is able to draw the diagram within the given period of time, both must be completed. Then only the assessment will be completed. See, in such a way, you must prepare the question. Okay. So, see, here is an example for apply. The knowledge acquired by remember, understand, must be applied somewhere else. Here I choose the example. So the example here given, this is, I think electronics and electrical people might know this. Nodal and mesh analysis. So already everybody we learned matrices in various levels of our education. School level, college level, different methods have been learned. So the student may wonder why we are learning matrices. What is the need to learn these methods? Several methods are there. Say for example, to solve this here, they are using Cramer's rule. So this is an application of learned knowledge in the lower two levels. See, you must remember the procedure completely. For example, if you want to apply Grammar's rule, Max's rule, you must remember the procedure. That is the first level of the Bloom's taxonomy. And you must understand how you must able to apply the known knowledge, already known Grammar's rule, and how you are supposed to apply for this particular circuit. So understand. Unless you have a proper understanding of the circuits and the matrices, you cannot apply it. So the third level, you are applying the known knowledge to a real-time problem. So again, come to the previous statement. Whether it is quantizable, whether the student is able to solve this network in a given period of time, and can you insert this particular question in the 40 marks of the main paper? Is it possible or not? All these things should be, because every network is not this much simple. So that must also be taken into consideration while you are preparing the question paper. Okay. You please read these two statements. Executing them. See, the student already knows the procedure, how to do the assigned task. Based on a set of instructional strategies, the student is supposed to perform the task. The student already knows the procedure of both. The student must be able to write KVL and KCL equations. Kirchhoff's laws equations write a and then matrix methods కూడా తెలిసి ఉండాలి. And then the student is supposed to perform the task. Okay. And implementing, see, executing and implementing both comes under this applies. If the student know one or more procedures to solve the unfamiliar task, this task is unfamiliar for right now, and this task is being solved by one or more procedures. Grammar's rule is not the only one available. Matrix methods, so many other matrix methods are there. Elimination methods, Gauss order, several methods are there. So whichever is applicable to this particular network, that must be chosen by the student, and then the task must be completed. So this is apply level. Okay. And this is another example. Suitable for civil people, I think. Anyway, everyone studied about Euler's laws, Euler's formula, critical formula, root formula. In mathematics also there is Euler's formulas. So, but the learned mathematical formulas able to apply it to the real-time problems. See, read the question. Apply Euler's critical load formula to calculate buckling load or critical load of the column shown in this figure. This is another way of asking the L3 level of question. We need not to know about the Euler's critical load formula or what is this load up on the column. Why I should place this is to understand how the question should be framed at every level. That's all. You may wonder what is this Euler critical load formula, why we are studying this. You need not to know all those things, but try to apply this particular type of framing to your curriculum, your course. How can we prepare a question like this? Okay. And the next one is The higher order level analyze. Read this statement carefully. Because FDPs require more focus, breaking the content into its constituent parts and detecting how the parts relate to one another and to an overall structure or purpose. So the activities involved are differentiating, organizing, attributing. So I'll show an example so that it will become easier for you. Differentiating, all these three will cover in that example. I will tell you how. Differentiating, organizing, attributing. So we'll go to the previous example later on. It is a somewhat complex problem and this will be an easier one and known to everyone. Here two systems are being compared, differentiating. The systems are Android and iOS operating systems. So what actually we said here, breaking the content into its constant parts and detecting how the parts relate to one another to an overall structure or purpose. So the attributes are being separated. See, various attributes are there. Before you are buying a mobile, of course in India, usually our top priority is budget. In many cases at least. So if budget is not a constraint, then we compare. Otherwise you need not to compare at all. If budget is the primary requirement, you need not to compare. Even though you are comparing, already you have an outcome. ఏ మొబైల్ కొనాలని ముందే డిసైడ్ అయిపోయారు కంపేర్ ఓకే కదా బడ్జెట్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ లేదు అనుకుంటే అప్పుడు చూడదు వాట్ ఆర్ ది ప్రోస్ అండ్ కాన్స్ ఆఫ్ iOS and Android. The attributes is being differentiating, separating. Separately we are listing out. These are the pros of iOS. These are the pros of Android. By combining all these attributes, that's what actually we stated earlier. See, this one. Why we are doing this? Constituent parts and detecting how the parts relate to one another to overall structure. That is being combined at the end to give you a complete picture. So before that, you must be able to differentiate each attribute. The attribute is being analyzed by person to person. Say for example, customization of the mobile. For some people, customization is top priority. So in such cases, Android will give you an edge. Android systems will give you high level of customizable mobiles. You can change wallpaper, ringtone, animations, any other things, any customizable part. But coming to the iOS, it is highly restricted. You cannot simply download a wallpaper. You can download everything from the App Store only. For example, if you want to install a third-party app, that is what usually called side loading. Android side loading under the third party app means it is not available in Google Play Store, but it is useful. You think for your daily life it is useful. What you think? In such cases, you can install that app from third party sources. But coming to the iOS, it doesn't provide you and it doesn't facilitate any such things. You must download app through App Store only. Of course, there is jailbreaking also there. iOS jailbreaking తెలుసుంటే ఎవరికైనా అంటే ఓఎస్ కన్స్టెంట్స్ తీసేస్తారు. వారంటీ పీరియడ్ అయిపోయి కొంతమంది చేసుకుంటుంటారు అలా. అది పక్కన పెడితే జైల్ బ్రేకింగ్ అనే దాన్ని పక్కన పెడితే iOS doesn't allow such loading of the apps other than from app stores. So, if you observe all these things, see even budget is also included here. So, by differentiating the complete picture, the OS is being attributed and differentiating by pieces, number of parts, attributes. And after observing all these attributes, you will combine these attributes to give you a complete picture. That is what analyze gives you. The third level, the fourth level of the Bloom's taxonomy, analyze is the first level of higher order thinking, which requires complete knowledge of attributes of that particular system. Unless you know a complete attribute system for the particular system, you cannot assess the system. Okay? This is also such kind of example, but a bit difficult. So, hyperbolic parabolic shell, which is a example transiting from the 3-dimension to 4th dimension, which is not suitable for many people. That is why I skipped this example. Okay? But you observe these assessment activities. See, breaking the larger material into smaller parts. You don't think that you are not making physically smaller parts. That's what actually we did in the previous example, Android. The attributes is being differentiated, separated. Okay? That is what highlighting here. Breaking the larger into smaller parts. Analyze how these smaller segments are related and connected to perform each other. Okay? And differentiating, distinguishing, discriminating, selecting, or focusing. These are some of the verbs associated with the analyze level. Remember, while you are preparing a question which is addressing that particular level, there are certain verbs associated with that level. You must use accordingly any one of those verbs. You can Google it. Several levels are available from L1 to L6 levels. Several verbs are available out there. But whether it is suitable for your course or not, that is one thing. And the second thing is whether it is accessible or not. All the verbs are not accessible. In a given 1.5 hour or 3 hour period of time, all the verbs you are using may not be suitable. That must also be taken into consideration while you are preparing a question. Okay? Next, evaluate. The next higher order thinking, making judgments based on criteria and standards. So, if you are unable to understand the statements, you please go through these activities, learning activities, so that it will become easier. Checking, critiquing, reviewing, judging, all these comes under evaluate. So here are some examples. See this one. This one is a random title and abstract of the research topic. Reviewing. What actually happens after you wrote an article or a research paper, you will submit it to a journal. After submitting, what happens? The editor will send it to the concerned reviewers for a review. That means that reviewer must have a knowledge of all the attributes corresponding to this particular area of learning. Otherwise, he or she cannot evaluate. He will go through your paper and list out some of the pros, cons, and missing, whatever missing information, and send back to editor, and editor will communicate. So reviewing, this is what reviewing. So in this case, there is a movie I think you might recognize it, Life of a Bike. Life of Bike, I think. So critiquing. Of course, in nowadays, after social media enters into everyone's room, everybody is critiquing. That is not critical. See, if you want to critique, you must have vast knowledge on that particular area. Unless you cannot critique it. Movies వచ్చాము సోషల్ మీడియా అర్థం చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. ఫేస్బుక్, ఇన్స్టా ఎక్కడ చూస్తూ ఉంటారు. గంటకి రివ్యూస్ వస్తుంటాయి. ఫస్ట్ షో పర్టికులర్ చూసిన వాడి అభిప్రాయం ఉంటారు. హీఈస్ నాట్ క్రిటికింగ్. రిమెంబర్ దట్. It is purely the person who is publishing that meme or whatever that she is clearly his particular opinion only. He is not critiquing. He is not eligible to critique. Critique cheyali ante aa area lo vast area of knowledge and experience unnaru. ఒకప్పుడు అలా ఉండేది. Once usually there are selectively some critics were there, and in some period, at some point of time of the period, even heroes and directors waited for their review. Based on their review, the fate of the movie will be changed. At one point of time, not now. Now social media is deciding everything. That is not critiquing. So evaluate means you should have an overall knowledge, overall command over it, so that from all directions you must observe. For example, for a movie, say for example, how the storyline goes on, how the screenplay is, how the background score, how the lighting, everything you should have minimum knowledge in order to critique it. So in order to evaluate, you must have overall knowledge of all the attributes of that particular system. And of course, this is another rare example corresponding to the construction of homes based on geographical areas. So construction of these homes is not same for all the geographical regions. There are certain regions where, so this is particularly way of construction near to deserts. So while you are judging it, this is judging. So that's what actually checking, critiquing, reviewing, and judging. What kind of constructional mechanism is suitable for these particular regions? Okay. So like that, in order to judge it, whether these kind of construction, for example, these kind of construction is not suitable for our areas. You see, observe it. No painting is there. Even though they painted, it will not last for even 1 week. Due to very harsh winds, they must reside there. So the construction must be according to the geographical conditions. So in order to judge it whether this is suitable for this region or not, the particular architect must have a overall attributional knowledge on the construction according to the geographical area. So then only he can judge whether it is suitable or not. So all these comes under evaluate, higher order thinking, last but one higher order thinking level. And the last one is create. Putting elements together to form a novel, coherent whole or make an original product. This is one of the most important one. The last phrase, original product. And the activities involved are generating, producing, creating. Please be in mind that I have seen somewhere else a course at L6 level, designed at L6 level. So I'm not commenting anyone. It is purely a theoretical paper. What I have seen is a pure theoretical paper, and their syllabus is mentioning that it is up to L6 level. A complete theoretical paper may be designed for L6 level only when the learner able to add a content theoretically to your curriculum at the end of the course. That is what OBE says. Is it possible? సింపుల్గా చెప్పాలంటే అంటే 5 యూనిట్ సిలబస్ మీరు ప్రిపేర్ చేసి పెట్టినప్పుడు L6 లెవెల్లో పెట్టినప్పుడు కోర్స్ కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయే టైంకి స్టూడెంట్ ఇంకొక యూనిట్ యాడ్ చేయగలిగి ఉండాలి. ఈజ్ థియరిటికల్లీ పాసిబుల్. ఒక థియరిటికల్ ప్రిన్సిపల్ డెవలప్ అవ్వాలంటే ఇది లైఫ్ టైం వర్క్. ఒక కేసీఆర్ వర్క్ ఏవిఆర్ వర్క్ తీసుకుంటే ఇది లైఫ్ టైం వర్క్. సింపుల్ గా మీకు ఒక స్టేట్మెంట్ లా కనిపిస్తుంది కానీ అది సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కెప్లర్స్ ప్లానటరీ లాస్ వినంటారు మీరు. Somewhere you might study in intermediate, I think. Kepler's planetary laws, 3 ఉంటాయండి. First law, the planet revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit. Sun is at 140. This is first law. ఇలా ప్రిపేర్ చేయడానికి కెప్లర్ గారికి 27 years పట్టింది. So అలా డిజైన్ చేసి యాడ్ చేయగలిగితే ప్యూర్ థియరిటికల్ పేపర్ then it may be L6 level. So what I want to say is L6 level is usually in not even in laboratory systems. In laboratory also what you are doing, I mean learner is doing already designed experiments ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో list of 10 or 15 experiments ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో those are repeating. He is not making a new experiment there. See, an original product. If the student or the learner able to add a new experiment using the available apparatus in your laboratory, a new experiment, remember that, then you may put that particular lab course at L6 level. Of course, project supposed to come at L6 level. Producing an original new product జనరల్గా మోడిఫికేషన్స్ చేసేసి ఉన్నదాన్ని ఆఫ్ ద రికార్డ్ will not off the record. That is not created. Okay, I'm not going into that deep. So, see, these are just paintings. It's a new product, completely new one. Before this, that particular product is not available. Before she or he drew. అది వేయకముందు అది లేదండి ముందు ఇప్పుడు వచ్చింది. That means they are producing original product. You see, that doesn't mean that new product means this Kamakshi or Art Shankaracharya drawing Art Shankaracharya need not to be the first time. Remember, several people several times drew it, but you are drawing this particular paint first time by your own, the original product. Then it can be treated as a create. You created a new original product. Okay. This is some people might recognize it. CSC associated people might recognize it. It's an 18 problem. So దీనికంటే ముందు ఎవరు ప్రోగ్రామ్ రాయలేదా? రాశారు. చాలా మంది చాలా రాశారు. Several people wrote programs to solve this problem several times. But the question is, when it will comes under create. All these attributes must be taken into consideration. If you can change any one of them by your own, then it will become a new product, an original product. Okay. For example, see space efficiency. How many lines of programs are there? In how many lines you completed the programs? That definitely differentiates you from other programs, isn't it? Isn't it? CSC people are on. So, if you can write and complete a program within lesser number of lines, obviously you will be a better programmer. That's what I don't know much about it, but according to my knowledge, if you can able to write a program in lesser number of lines to complete the task must also be completed. Writing lesser number of lines doesn't need not to be the only requirement. The task should also be completed. So, which gives you the amount of memory needed for the algorithm to execute. It will be reduced as you are using lesser space. So, if you can write a program like that by changing any one of at least any one of these attributes, obviously it will be a new product, an original product. Create comes under create level. Okay. So these are some of the taxonomical action verbs. I will completely made it here because the space is not sufficient. Some of the taxonomical verbs these are. So while you are preparing a question using the taxonomical verb, so there are certain rules while you are preparing the question. The taxonomical verb must be present in the question. That is first thing. Okay. For example, if you want to prepare a question of L3 level, so say for example, only these are available. These are several available out there. That's for our time constraint. Any one of these can be incorporated into the question without losing the actual meaning of the question. That need not to start at the beginning itself. Remember that. Some people have that misconception. The question should start with the verb, taxonomical verb. No, the question need not to start with taxonomical verb if the meaning is not completely reflecting. The verb can be placed wherever it is suitable. And another thing, while you are giving this L3 level question, you can also incorporate L1, L2 verbs if needed. If you are trying to assess a student in L3 level means L1 and L2 default come into the picture. That means a single question need not to be limited to one action verb. Okay. The question may contain multiple verbs, but remember one thing: if your question contains multiple verbs, the highest order verb should lead the way. For example, L1, L2, L3, L4, four verbs are included in that question without losing the completeness of the question and losing the meaning. Then the question will be placed at L4 level. Is it clear? We'll stop here. So far. Okay, then. In this session, this first part of the session, if anybody have any queries, you can please ask. Oh, queries on that?
I request people to interact with on this particular topic because these are very much essential for you day-to-day activities. Not only formulation, and tomorrow's session is also based on this one only. Control of examination is going to discuss about these topics for assessment and preparing the question paper. So if you have any thing on your mind, please ask the sir.
Question ready చేస్తున్నప్పుడు suppose if we wrote the question starting with 39 or something, we said that we can incorporate remember and understand also. But at this point, one single example like how can we incorporate like 3 to 4 action verbs in the question.
Not mandatory, but you can. I will give an example. I can give you example in my course only. I cannot give you example in your course, and I am not aware of it.
Program.
For example, as I mentioned, all the verbs are not there. NLP level illustrate it. Illustrate the classification of conductors, semiconductors, and insulators based on band theory of solids, and list at least 2 examples for each. The 2 levels are being illustrate and list. Apply and then remember. Third and first levels. So that some verbs need to be rechecked, especially when you are surfing through the web. Some verbs used to present in multiple levels. మీరు అబ్జర్వ్ చేసి ఉండొచ్చు ఇప్పటికి కొంతమంది కొన్ని వెబ్స్ L3 L4 లెవెల్లో కామన్ గా కనిపిస్తుంటాయండి. అలా కనిపించినప్పుడు మీరు స్పెసిఫిక్ గా ఏ లెవెల్లో క్వశ్చన్ ప్రజెంట్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నారు, ఆల్టర్నేటివ్ ఏమైనా పాసిబిలిటీ ఉందా లేదా. అదర్ మెథడ్ ఏంటంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ పర్టికులర్ in such cases it is suggestible to replace the repeating verb with suitable other verbs. ఎందుకంటే అది ఇమీడియట్ గా కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్ వస్తుంది. ఇది L3 లెవెల్లోదా L2 లెవెల్లోదా కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్ వస్తుంది. ఈవెన్ దో ది ఎగ్జామినర్ who prepared the paper may have their own idea, but learner may feel difficult. మన స్టూడెంట్స్ అయితే జనరల్ గా L1 L2 L3 లెవెల్స్ ఏం చూడటం లేదండి. మా విషయం చూడటం మనం ఇనిషియల్ ఏం చేస్తున్నాం అంటే దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఇనిషియల్లీ స్టార్టెడ్ విత్ దట్. Knowing technology is not OBE. So implementation is very much essential. Question paper analyze చేయాలండి. After completion of the mid examination, the concerned faculty must go to the class, at least spend one complete class on the paper. Obviously that will give you insights of the question paper. The paper may not be prepared by you. Usually the paper will be prepared by a senior person in that department. So at that time you may not be the examiner or paper setter. You need not to be paper setter. First you need to understand how the paper was prepared, and then it must be communicated to the student. Spending at least 45 minutes on the class is very much essential. If we forcefully insert OBE into the system, it will never happen. That is the problem. Usually NBA ముందర 2 నెలలు CO by heart చేసి CO by heart చేసి ఏవో కొన్ని ఉంటాయి కదా, శాలరీస్, బ్యాంక్స్, లీవ్ పాలసీస్, ఇలాంటివి బై హార్ట్ చేసేస్తే 2 నెలలు అయిపోయిందని మేము మామూలు OBE ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ లేదా. నెక్స్ట్ అప్కమింగ్ సెషన్స్ లో ఉన్నాయి మీకు CO మ్యాపింగ్స్, CO ఎస్టిమేట్స్, ఎవాల్యుయేషన్ ఆఫ్ ది CO. ఇవన్నీ ఏం చేస్తున్నాం మనం? ఒక స్టాండర్డ్ ఫార్మాట్ ఉంది, అన్ని కాలేజీల దగ్గర ఉంటుంది అలా స్టాండర్డ్ ఫార్మాట్. బ్లైండ్లీ డంపింగ్ ది డేటా ఇంటూ ది Excel sheet. How many people know what is happening over there? How the levels are fixed for a given course? Very few people know. Raw numbers, very basic level. Taxonomic level చెప్పాలంటే L1 లెవెల్లో చేస్తున్నారు. డేటా తీసుకుని డైరెక్ట్గా ఎక్సెల్ షీట్ లో డంప్ చేస్తున్నారు, ఫైనల్ వాల్యూ వచ్చేస్తారు. అంత లైన్లీ క్యాలిక్యులేషన్స్ ఉంటాయన్నమాట. CO అటైన్మెంట్ అయిన తర్వాత దీని నుంచి మీకు PO అటైన్మెంట్స్ ఉంటాయండి. ఆ COకి మ్యాప్ అయిన కోర్సులు అన్నింటినీ తీసుకుని PO అటైన్మెంట్ క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తారు. మీరు క్లియర్ గా డిసైడ్ చేసుకున్న లెవెల్ రీచ్ అయితే ఆ PO అటైన్ అయినట్టు చెప్తారు. PO1 అనుకోండి, ఇంజనీరింగ్ నాలెడ్జ్. PO1 ఆల్మోస్ట్ అన్ని కోర్సులతోటి మ్యాప్ అయి ఉంటున్నాను, మాక్సిమం కోర్సులు మ్యాప్ అయి ఉంటున్నాను. ఫస్ట్, సెకండ్, థర్డ్, ఫైనల్ కోర్సుల్లో మాక్సిమం కోర్సులతో మ్యాప్ అయి ఉంటుంది. సో PO1 తో మ్యాప్ అయి ఉన్న కోర్సులు అన్నింటినీ అటైన్మెంట్స్ తీసుకుని దాని నుంచి PO అటైన్మెంట్ క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేస్తారు. అప్పుడు స్టాండర్డ్ గా ముందు ప్రీవియస్ గా డిసైడ్ చేసి పెట్టుకున్న లెవెల్ 2, 3 ఈ లెవెల్స్ ఎలా డిసైడ్ చేస్తున్నారు, మేబీ అవి ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ రావచ్చు. సో PO1 ఆ లెవెల్ అటైన్ అయిందా లేదా, అలా ఉన్న 12 POs తోని మాక్సిమం POs అటైన్ అవ్వాలి. 4 పేపర్స్ అయితే PSO కూడా అటెండ్ అవ్వం. PSO 1, PSO 2 మినిమం 2 ఉంటాయి, మాక్సిమం 5 దాకా ఉండొచ్చు PSO. పెంచుకొని కొద్ది క్యాలిక్యులేషన్స్ పెరుగుతుంటాయండి. అందుకని జనాలు అందరూ 2 రిస్ట్రిక్ట్ చేసేస్తుంటారు. PSO 1, 2 దగ్గర ఆపేస్తుంటారు, 5 దాకా పెట్టుకోవచ్చు PSO సెట్స్. సో ఫోర్స్ఫుల్ గా ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలండి. OBE ఫోర్స్ఫుల్ గా ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేస్తే తప్ప అది హ్యాబిట్ కన్నా కన్వర్ట్ అవ్వదు. Okay, we have 10 to 15 minutes. Right, then we will come back.
So just in general, I think these action verbs will change as per the area of discipline.
No,
For
sir.
example, law, medicine, humanities, is it the same action verbs?
Action verb doesn't change. You must choose suitable action verb of that particular level to your course only. Because action verbs are completely linked to the level of the taxonomy. That cannot be changed.
These verbs are
Fixed, sir. Fixed. For every course, they are fixed.
law,
If it is not suitable for you, if the verb is not particularly not suitable for your course, you must search for another verb only.
that's what I meant.
Ah.
For example, medicine student, the verb may change.
No, sir. The list of verbs doesn't say. That's what I'm telling you. For example, let us assume that you have 3